Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. This is Dr. Richard Owen. I am joined in the Hilltop Studios by...
I'm a surefire.
And...
Uncle Bachi.
Uncle Labachi. So we got a full house tonight. We have very little to talk about, but we will see what we can do to go kind of slow and stretch it out for the entire 55 minutes. You got that, Bachi?
I got that.
That should be easy for you to do.
Contain our enthusiasm.
What enthusiasm? What? I've been telling everybody all day long to make sure they go vote. You can't imagine the reactions I've gotten.
I can imagine.
All right. We are all over the social media as Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW. Primarily, we have a Facebook page, and we are on Twitter, as well as we have a developing blog called DocOwenShow.com. We also have free apps for both Apple and Android platforms. And if you download our app and follow us on Twitter, all is Doc Owen Show, DOCOWENSHOW. This is not that hard. Then you will get a tweet when we go live on Thursday nights. And or if you download the apps, you'll have access to our entire library and history. We're in our fourth year of broadcast, podcast, information, nonsense, et cetera, et cetera. So I highly advise taking advantage of the free app. We always do start the show in a very traditional manner. We do the same thing week after week after week. And this is no different. We begin with Ms. Surefire and bit of an inspirational quote. Uncle Bachi gives us this day in history because he's the show historian, and then I do a leadership quote or two, and we take it from there. So, Ms. Surefire, take it away.
And tonight's quote, as usual, comes from InspirationalDaily.com. And tonight's quote's from a lady by the name of Helen Rowland. She was an American journalist and humorist. And her quote is, "You will never win if you never begin."
Mm-hmm. Boom. Mm-hmm. Short, sweet, straight to the point.
And apropos.
Yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Uncle Bachi, what happened this day in history at some point in time?
This day in history in 1775
All right.
was the birth of the U.S. Marine Corps.
Yay.
Happy birthday to all our Marines out there, and a huge Doc Owen Show thank you for protecting us.
Yeah.
And guys, there's help on the way.
Our leadership quote is from our friends at Crowned Grace International, and it's from a fellow that has no last name. His name's William James.
Kind of like Prince.
Gotcha.
I guess.
Yeah.
He must have been a rock star at some point in
Probably.
time. Google it. William James. Pessimism leads to weakness. Optimism to power.
Nice. True.
And when I say that, what was the hashtag of the Trump campaign all the way through Twitter?
Don't look at me.
Hashtag MAGA. Make America Great Again.
Oh,
Nice.
that's good. I hadn't seen that one.
True.
Pessimism leads to weakness. Optimism to power.
Amen.
There you go. All right. We do have a really good show for you. We've got an excellent interview and conversation with a friend of ours that we've had on before by the name of Pastor Greg Locke. And I spoke to Pastor Locke a couple of, about a week or 10 days ago. And we talked about the election, the upcoming election. And I think you'll enjoy, even in retrospect, what he had to say, because it was real pertinent. And we will then dive into some post-election information that we are beginning to gather and a reaction. And I'm going to put something out there that I think is a major lesson learned from the election that I'm not sure everybody's aware of, but I'm going to put it out there, and I think 6 months to a year from now, that it'll be a major part of the discussion.
Good.
So, Uncle Bocce,
yes, sir.
What are you going to talk about tonight?
Well, tonight we're going to take a look at the beginnings.
By the way, before you go there,
yes,
your show on rigged elections,
yes,
your historical perspective on rigged elections,
yes,
got excellent reviews.
No kidding.
Yes.
Well, awesome.
Both of our listeners were
both of them, huh?
Yep, both of them, almost simultaneously.
That's you and I,
like back to back. They called and said that was a great show. I think they're actually a husband and wife. But anyway,
well, good. I will put that out on the website.
Yeah, you should.
As soon as I get some time.
Put a link there. Okay. Yeah. Now, where were you? 17?
Okay, so, yeah, we're in the early 1700s, and it's the beginnings of revolutionary thinking. We all know that revolutions, sometimes they fail. Give you two examples.
Okay.
The French Revolution, it culminated in the leadership of Napoleon, who was a ruthless emperor and tried to conquer Europe. So the French Revolution didn't bring anything good. The Russian Revolution was even worse.
Are you talking about the French Revolution when the
Robespierre and all those
liberals took over?
Whatever they're called, yes.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Égalité, liberté. Okay, then the Russian Revolution, which brought years of civil war and brutal regime headed by Stalin.
Okay, yeah.
So made the Russian people wish for the days of the monarchy. So with those two examples, how did the American Revolution bring us what it did? How did it yield a constitutional republic with greater freedom on a larger scale than the world had ever seen before? We're going to answer that question.
Don't answer it?
Not going to answer it now. We're going to look at it. This is just setting up the stage here. Successful revolutions never begin overnight.
That's true.
That's true.
Okay? The American Revolution was actually 169 years in the making.
Yeah, but that was before Twitter.
That was before, yes. It was before a lot of things.
We can hashtag revolution and have one in 24 hours.
Okay. As we saw throughout the colonial experience, there were a lot of important stones that were being laid into the foundation of America.
Okay.
The distance of the British colonists that they enjoyed from their kings was really a good thing. It made centralized rule nearly impossible. And what are they trying to do to us today? They want to bring us back to King George with concentration of all the power in D.C.
We just elected our own president. I am not going back under England.
There we go. No, I don't want to go back under England, but I'm just saying, so some of the things that we saw happening, the Virginia House of Burgesses was the first representative assembly in the Western Hemisphere. You remember our talks about that. Where did this concept of representative government come from? Who gave us that idea? Where did it come from? We're going to look at that.
Okay.
Okay? That's one of the things we're going to talk about. And the Pilgrims, they committed themselves to self-rule before they even reached the shores with the Mayflower Compact. They agreed that they would rule themselves. Where did that concept of self-rule come from?
They agreed that they would rule themselves.
Yes, they agreed.
But wait a minute, but they didn't. The British ruled.
Actually, no, they didn't. Even though we were under the British were so far away and so involved in so much of their own stuff in Europe that it allowed us to really grow and rule ourselves.
So it's kind of like my family's always been in sales, in shoe sales in particular, in Texas and surrounding states. But all the factories and sales management are way up east.
Okay.
So we could kind of do our own thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay.
It's kind of the same concept.
I got it.
Then there were town meetings were the norm in New England. Town meetings, again, another concept. Where did that come from? Now, the Quaker faith
Some
made...
guy stood up in the middle of the town and said,
I
come here, I
guess he
want to talk to you.
did. The town crier, right?
Yeah.
The Quaker faith made equality a practice in the community throughout the middle colonies. They did. They were very big on equality, very anti-slavery. So those kinds of things were being planted.
The Quakers.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, all these important steps towards revolution were already realized before the 1700s.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. So there were a lot of events in the early part of the 18th century which made separation from Britain even more inevitable.
Okay.
Okay? There was the European Enlightenment, which became the American Enlightenment, which filled the heads of our colonists with concepts of liberty and progress. Again, how did they get all this? The Great Awakening, let us not forget that. That ushered in new faiths, the sense of equality and working with one another. American newspapers achieved a sound victory for a free press.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to talk about a very big Supreme Court case called the Zenger verdict. We'll talk about that.
Which they have now completely blown.
Yes, exactly. Going full circle. A tradition of ignoring English law was established, particularly by New England smugglers who potentially ignored custom regulations to get their stuff where they wanted to get it. The colonists were no stranger to rebellion because there were many rebellions from New York all the way to South Carolina in demands of equality.
But we were rebelling against the British, rebelling against the British common law. What were we? We weren't rebelling against each other, or were we?
Right, for the sense of equality is what it was. People had a taste of equality, and they wanted to keep it. Okay, so every attempt to try to curb that.
That's what happens when, that's what's going on right now. It's because at one point in time we made the mistake of giving Democrats the vote.
Exactly. We should never have done that. Okay. Now, so there were many diverse peoples from all over Europe that flocked to the British colonies. They had a reason for coming here. The stage had long been set for Americans to assert their independence from the Brits.
Sure.
Many events transpired between the years of 1763 and 1776, which is what we're going to be studying in the next few weeks.
Okay.
Okay, so there were a lot of short-term causes of the revolution, but you have to keep in mind, it was 169 years.
Oh, I do, yeah.
Yeah.
So
even though we're going to talk about the things that happened between 1763 and 1776, they're just the short-term things that really overturned the apple cart.
Well, yeah, they were the proverbial straws.
Exactly.
You know, that broke the camel's back. I mean, they just, after 169 years, our patience was wearing thin.
Exactly. But the concepts that we just briefly mentioned, they were long in the people's minds.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So that's it for this week.
Well done, lad. Well done.
Yeah, and so I'm looking forward to the next few sessions because we're going to talk about some really, really interesting things that you guys never learned in school. You're going to learn them here on the Doc Owen Show.
All right.
Ooh,
I like it.
Yes, sir.
Go to a 3-hour format.
We're going to have to.
Teach these punks in.
Absolutely. So it's going to be really exciting.
Good
Uncle
job.
Bachi at DocOwenShow.com. UNCLEBACI at DocOwenShow.com. I'm waiting for you.
There you go.
Thank you, Gabachi.
Okay, we've already kind of gone into what the show is going to be about. We're right up on our 15-minute. Let's take a little sip of water, and we will be right back.
Did you ever look at the stains in your coffee cup and then realize that's exactly what happens to your teeth? PowerSwabs is the 5-minute solution to get your teeth white without visiting the dentist. This is John Greenhut, the CEO of PowerSwabs. And if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, all it takes is 5 minutes with PowerSwabs. In 5 minutes, you'll see an average of 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. It's clinically proven to whiten natural teeth as well as caps and veneers. The secret is a tooth detergent that was developed by Dr. Martin Ginniger that lifts stains off of your teeth. Best of all, there's no messy strips or trays that you have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes and you're done. To try PowerSwabs risk-free, call 1-800-975-4583. That's 1-800-975-4583. I guarantee your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free today. 1-800-975-4583. That's 1-800-975-4583.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. We're extremely glad you're here. We will dive right into it. While surfing or watching Facebook or doing whatever it is I do on the computer, I have to have something to entertain myself because I don't watch television. I'm not locked into that. I listen to radio and I surf the net. I found what I think is a wonderful after the election, I don't know what you'd call it, thank you or congratulations or whatever, but and I have to give you the full story. You can go out and look it up, and if you'll go to YouTube, search for Henry Davis election, and it'll pop right up. All right. Henry Davis is a black Trump supporter, and he had a message for his friends the day after the election. I'd like for you guys to hear what Mr. Davis had to say. Go ahead.
Give my remarks to all of the Trump haters, all of the Hillary Clinton supporters, all of the people that said that my Trump was gonna lose. So I say to you this morning, the day after the election,
That was Mr. Henry Davis
Hilarious.
talking to
I love
the
it.
never Trumpers, the Trump haters or whatever. And on that little brief introduction, we will flow right into my conversation with Greg Locke, and then we will come back and tell you some things, some lessons learned that you may or may not be aware of as a result of the election. Mr. Locke, go. I can tell. I mean, you've been having a good time with the YouTube. I listened to your last few where you were commenting on the presidential race.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, I read some of the comments about what you had to say.
Right.
You take some heat, don't you?
Oh, we take a lot of it. That's no doubt. That's okay.
That's not. I don't understand that response to what you have to say.
Right. Sometimes it gets pretty vicious.
I can tell. I can tell. I guess that's. One of the things that's you just have to deal with it. I mean, it's the persecution.
Right.
There's one guy talking about the persecution complex. I think it's real. I know worldwide it's real. I think
Sure.
the United States is it's not nearly as bad here as it is in other countries, but it was bad. I mean, I just saw some of those comments and I'm like, how could they say that? I mean, they're just anyway.
Yeah, some of them are super. We have somebody that actually combs through some of the comments and has to remove a lot of them. And some of them are pretty threatening.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that recent, Greg, as you speak out more about politics and less about daily activities?
Yeah, it's to this point where it doesn't matter a whole lot what I say, but if I say anything about politics or anti-LGBT or something, yeah, we get some major bomb threats and life threats. And we have to. We've had some of the events that I've gone to as of late. We've really had to make sure that they have the security kicked up because people threaten to be there and say and do all manner of evil.
You're a young guy. The first time we talked a little bit about your background and you know, you testified or gave witness to what your beginnings were, which I thought was absolutely fabulous. And is this something you expected? You know what I'm saying? In other words, would you have imagined the veracity of some of the people coming at you?
I don't know if it's something that you can really be that prepared for.
Okay.
I expected it to some degree. But,
you're a young guy.
There's some crazy people out there.
They're really. That's funny. They say you are.
Exactly. They say I'm quite radical. But that's okay. I'll tell you what is more, probably the most disheartening part is the evil things that are said from the supposed body of Christ, from people that are Christians that don't want you to take a stand, that want you to keep your mouth shut.
Right. I saw some of that, and you know, I kind of read between the lines, like, and
sure.
You know, all of that stuff about you know, separation of church and state and illegal activities, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
It's just they obviously don't understand what they're talking about because that, or correct me if I'm wrong, because that I've always understood that the separation of church and state, as a lot of people. You all right?
Yeah. Huh?
Okay. It's more about. I mean, that's kind of a myth. What the Constitution says is that the government will not mandate a particular religion. It doesn't say anything at all about you not being able to talk politics.
Exactly. That's where people get it twisted, because it was really for our benefit so that the government wouldn't meddle in our business. But it was never to keep us out of politics and the government. You know, I mean, most of the framers of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, I mean, many of those guys were either strong preachers or they were under some strong preaching. Even the deists, you know, I mean, those guys were exposed to it. And there's not a week that goes by that we don't get letters and threats that we're going to lose our 501c3 and all that foolishness. But hey, we just rock on, man. We're not worried about it.
No, good. I didn't figure you would. I just kind of wanted the audience to know that it goes on. You know, it's not all Pollyanna. It's not all easy. And as Alma just handed me a note that said, you know, as Jesus was persecuted, and she's absolutely correct.
Yep, no doubt.
So
people are going to speak out. They might as well go ahead and, you know, understand there's going to be a lot of pressure to compromise. There's going to be, you know, it's not all big pages and, you know, people following you around. There's a lot of crazy people out there that want us to be quiet, and so it's just par for the course.
And I don't want to dwell on this because you're not dwelling on it. Then that's real smart. The last two videos that you put out were, to me, very telling and very important for the audience to hear. When I play this back as part of the show, I'll probably, you know, put those in there either as a precursor to this conversation or afterwards. But you were talking about you voted. It's more important about what you voted for and not who you voted for. And I think that's a real critical distinction.
Sure, because, you know, it's so personality-driven, this election go-round, and so people can't get past the Hillary complex, and they certainly can't get past the Trump complex, as I call it.
Right.
And so I'm trying to get people to understand it's not about the person that we're putting in the office. It's about the principles or the lack thereof that they stand on.
Right.
And, you know, the video, I think, in question, I did it specifically for Twitter and YouTube. I don't know if I put it on my Facebook page. I do different ones. But, yeah, I want to talk about the Supreme Court nominations and how important that is, and you know, pro-life and all of that. So I think people need to quit getting the personality complex and get it so twisted, and everybody's arguing Trump, Hillary, when at the end of the day, we better start sitting down and encircling the fact that, one of them is going to give us some absolute freedom and liberty, and the other is absolutely going to take every bit of it away.
Well, yes, and I think, to be perfectly clear, as individuals, they're not going to do it, but they will support an administration that will either support our liberties and our free enterprise and our right to bear guns and all of that kind of jazz, or they will have an administration that will do exactly the opposite. So
exactly.
to me,
set the precedent for the next 20 years for sure.
Yes, sir. I've never seen, and I have been around longer than you have and following it for a long time, I've never seen a greater divide between the two. In other words, it's to me, it's distinct, and I don't see how people can't see that. So, I guess what really bothers me is, and help me out, Pastor, why does it not register with everybody?
People, I think, want to be willfully ignorant. They don't want to know the issues. By and large, the body of Christ is lazy, and that's why we're in the mess that we're in. And so I think people they've just rolled over. They let the culture stroke their belly, and they want to be comfortable and politically correct. Nobody wants to be unfriended on Facebook. So when you find somebody that's got a lightning rod personality, such as myself, yourself, and other people that are no doubt standing,
yes,
it's almost like we immediately become the radicals. We're the crazy fundamentalists, if you will. Matter of fact, we had a lady that just visited our church the other day, and she came to follow my page and to visit our church because the church where she goes, her pastor used me as an illustration of who not to follow, of some radical, crazy preacher that's, decrying Targets, transgender bathrooms, and all of that. And she said it intrigued her because she was tired of the compromise of her preacher, and she wanted to hear somebody who would actually say so.
She wanted somebody to speak out on her behalf, is what she wanted.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. And you're exactly right. I bemoan all the time that as a patriot, I have somehow gathered the handle of conservative. That, to me, just doesn't go very hand in hand at all. But that's the nature of it. So how are you doing on the flock? Or is it growing by leaps and bounds like it was when we talked a few months ago?
It is, yeah. It's growing more so than that. So we're with the counties trying to figure out all the permits to get these back two walls knocked out so we can add another 150 seats. And we've started a Saturday night service, I think, since we talked last.
Yes,
so
sir.
We had to add an additional weekend service. So it's been interesting. We're just growing, and this past weekend, the final service was probably the largest I've ever seen it. It's just people just keep coming and coming, and then when I travel around and preach, visitors are just pouring into the buildings everywhere that I go. They're just people are hungry. They're starving to death for common sense, biblical preaching.
How far and wide do you get to travel, and how does somebody follow that? In other words, if we wanted to, follow it, or if we wanted to put it out on the airwaves,
sure.
How do we know?
I usually put it, I always put it, every week or bi-weekly or whatever on my Facebook page. I have like a little graphic that tells people where I'm going to be.
Okay.
I don't normally do it months in advance because the people that follow me every day, they're going to see it and they're going to be there. And what we found is if I do it too far in advance, it gives the crazies too much time to prepare and to show up and to pick it and stuff. And
interesting.
So, I usually do it, weekly, bi-weekly, something like that.
Okay.
But we travel there. I was just in Las Vegas. I've been in almost every state. I'm fixing to this week. I'll be in Kentucky. Next week I'll be in West Virginia. The week after that I'll be in Kokomo, Indiana. So I go all over.
Good for you. Well, I will. I think we are following the Facebook page. If not, we'll start so we can figure out when you're coming to Texas. And that's really not fair. Texas is a pretty big place. We'll figure out when you're coming close to us in Texas, close enough for us to drive to. So
we were looking at the demographics on my page the other day, the staff, and there's no doubt about it. Within the United States, Texas is my largest following within the confines of the country.
Hoo-yah. That's great.
So I have a lot of people asking me to come to Texas.
I'm grinning from ear to... Well, just remember this. If they try to get you to go to Dallas, that's real close to Texas. I mean, you're not really in Texas if you go to Dallas, but you're within a real comfortable traveling distance.
There you go.
That's said from somebody from South Texas. So what else can we tell the youth? I mean, you are you're one of my heroes. That's the reason I reached out to you again, particularly right before the election, because I knew you would tell it like it is, which is what we try to do. And I have been trying not to get involved in the personality like you, and have been trying to do, and focus my audience as much as I could on the issues. And I think you are right on the money about the Supreme Court and the long-term effect of this particular election. And I'm not sure, are you confident that your audience is understanding what you're telling them about that?
I'm not, to be honest with you. I mean, if people are paying attention, they know the issues and they know what's going on.
Right.
I just don't think a lot of people are paying attention. They cannot see the forest for the trees, if you will. And I don't think people can see 10 years down the road. They can't see 4 years down the road. But, we can base it on what we've already seen. I mean, the last 4 years, the last 8 years,
yes, sir.
What a train wreck. We can't use 4 or 8 more years of that.
So
people don't understand how much debt we're going to be in. It's crazy that people do not pay attention.
Well, unfortunately, I recall that people telling me about what I was going to need to have when I was 50, and they were trying to tell me when I was 25, and I didn't listen. I mean,
right.
And so that's sort of what we're faced with, is helping people understand the impact of the Supreme Court decisions are going to be for the end of a generation. And
right.
And we're talking to a generation that's going, oh man, that's not my problem. You're right.
You're right.
I mean, they don't listen any better than we did, or than I did. and I guess all we can do is keep banging on the door, and every once in a while somebody will open it and say, you're right. And so we've gotten one person that maybe wasn't listening before, but it's tough. So I commend you for your ongoing effort to do that. I just realized the last time we talked, it was either your birthday or your anniversary. It was your anniversary.
It was our wedding anniversary.
It was and you had just arrived at the hotel. So you're still married, right?
Yes, sir. We're happily married. Happily married.
I just figured I would throw that out there. What else can we do for you, Pastor Greg? What kind of a message do you want to deliver, sir?
It's interesting that politics are such a hot topic these days. But at the end of the day, I told somebody on the interview, I said, whatever happens on November the 8th, you can be assured of one thing about Greg Locke on November the 9th. I'm still going to preach that God is sovereign. He is on the throne.
Right.
That the Bible is still the Word of God.
Right.
Jesus is still the hope. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. I certainly have who I want to be in the office. And people need to understand that I'm not head over heels over Donald Trump.
Right.
I told people the other day in Las Vegas, Donald Trump is not going to bring revival, and Hillary Clinton's not going to stop it if God sends it. Neither one of them
are the
ideal candidates.
Nice. Yeah. Excuse me, I reacted to. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The Clinton, they can't stop it.
Yeah, they can't stop it. If God sends it, nobody's going to stop it, no matter liberalism, communism, whatever. And so God's in control, and I really think the church needs to understand we're getting. I don't care who gets in. There's going to be riots in the street.
I think so too.
If he gets in, there's riots in the street. If she gets in, there's riots in the street.
Yeah.
And I might be crazy, and people think I'm a conspiratist. I'm not so sure that Obama still didn't have something up his sleeve. He's not going to lay down and roll over easily. He never plays by the rules.
I don't think I think he's proven that he's not to be trusted. and that
Yep.
you're coming from the same place I am. And I totally agree with you that no matter who wins, it's going to be a rocky transition. We are not going to go smoothly into the middle of January.
Nope.
I mean, it doesn't matter because it's been such a divisive campaign, because it's been such a, there's been such a line drawn in the sand, and it's almost like the campaign played into Donald Trump's hands like a reality TV show.
Sure.
It was down and dirty and in the trenches the vast majority of the time. That they just had trouble staying talking about issues. They had trouble no one took the high road.
Right. And we've still got a week or so it's going to get amazingly crazy, I think, before then.
Wait a minute. You don't think we've learned all we need to learn?
Nope.
I knew when the independent media, when the WikiLeaks and the Breitbarts and the Drudges started piling on and getting in the game, that it was really going to get tough.
Yeah, it's definitely a gloves-off campaign.
Yeah, yep. Well, I really appreciate your time. We've taken up about 15, 20 minutes of it, and I would love to see you. I hope you get to Texas, or I can get to Eastern Tennessee. So
yes, sir. I'll definitely get that way, and I appreciate you. And anytime I can be on, just let me know. I'm glad to be on.
I will look forward to shaking your hand and getting a hug.
Yes, sir. Sounds good to me.
Keep the faith, Pastor Greg. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. God bless you, Doc.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas.
Call 1-800-352-3127. Again, 1-800-352-3127. A fee-based company.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back or welcome aboard. You are listening to the Doc Owen Show. We are glad you're here. Had a rousing first half of the show. We're going to finish it out with some information you may not be aware of, but kind of I think you need to know. I'd like to make one observation, and this is coming from a very personal perspective in that I am above all, a student. I watch, I pay attention, I try to learn. No matter what the circumstances, I'm always trying to learn. That's part of the deal. So in watching this election, as it was going along, as the campaigns were being run, one of the things that I noticed, and you probably did too, but maybe it didn't sink in, was that Donald Trump was all over social media. Mm-hmm. And I would go to his live Facebook videos, okay, where they broadcast his rallies. And the nice thing about Facebook is, right up at the top of the screen, you can see the number of viewers. And they were always between 85,000 and sometimes over 100,000 in the last few weeks of the campaign of people watching the video. At the same time, you could go to Hillary's, and it was about 1/10 of that. She might have 8,000. She might have, but I don't think it ever went over 10,000 viewers. So almost 10 times the number of viewers. They always talked about Mr. Trump not having a ground game. His ground game was hashtag MAGA. Hashtag Trump Pence 16. All these hashtags that are out there on Twitter that would get tweeted, retweeted, liked, and, that was his ground game, was all on social media. And I've been a student of politics since the late 50s. In 1960, a young man by the name of John F. Kennedy defeated Richard M. Nixon for president. And one of the things that gave him credit for or the reason that they thought he won the debate that was on television, and subsequently that kind of pushed him and catapulted him forward to win the presidency, was his charisma that carried forward through this new medium called TV. Up until that time, newspapers ruled when it came to political advertising. Full-page ad in the newspaper was the only way you could win the election. And Kennedy turned it over to television. And from that point forward, TV ruled the world. That's why you see you are inundated with campaign ads on TV. And as an example, in the state of Florida, Hillary Clinton spent $92 million on television advertising. Just in Florida. Trump spent $41 million, less than half, and he won the state. How'd that happen? It happened because TV is not the driving force anymore. Another thing that we've seen is, and I guarantee you going forward, campaigns will be run on social media. That will be their focus. Less and less of television, just like it was less and less of newspapers back in the 60s up until today. I don't hear a lot of people talking about that, but I guarantee you heard it here first, and you remember it as the next few election cycles go on. That's what you're going to see. And by social media, it'll be it won't be the primary channels. There are internet locations of things called TV, Levin TV, the Blaze TV. All of these guys that are big enough to have enough followers, they have their own, quote, TV, unquote, channel. But all it is an internet location. And I don't mean that all it is. I mean, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of technology behind it. But it's an internet location, which is why maybe you understand that I've fought so hard and talked so much about giving away the internet, is because of the power now is nothing compared to what the power can be in the future. Okay. Let's talk about something else you probably don't know. There were signs of divine intervention in the Trump victory. At election eve 2016 began without any real sign of a gathering storm. No hint a popular revolt was brewing. In fact, just the opposite. That networks were reporting the mood in the inner circle of the Republican candidate was subdued, somber, tense, even foreboding, as if fearing the worst. In direct contrast, the mood in the camp of the Democratic Party presidential candidate was described as confident, expectant, and already almost celebratory. Giddy. When the first polls closed on the East Coast and the first results began to come in, those moods seemed to be swiftly confirmed by reality. The pre-election polls were not wrong. Democratic Party nominee Hillary Clinton immediately took the lead, and she was winning in the battleground states. She was leading in Florida. She was leading in North Carolina. She was leading in Pennsylvania. She was leading in Ohio. Clinton was threatening to pull away and end the suspense early. And at about 9:30 and at 7 p.m., there was no sign of a popular uprising by Republican presidential candidate Trump. There was no sign at 8 p.m. There was still no sign as time inexorably marched on. Something would have to break. And then it did. Like a scene out of the film It's a Wonderful Life, people had begun to pray. Not just in one small town across America, but all across America and all around the world. It began in Jerusalem. And they started to pray. And at approximately 9:30, when everybody was at prayer, the tide turned. And never looked back.
Amazing.
If you're not a believer, it's a coincidence.
Right.
But it's something that you need to think about. If, as a non-believer, you wanted to call it a coincidence, that's fine by me. I'm a believer. It's a very powerful medium.
It is. And even if you do believe that it's just a coincidence, why did it happen at the same moment? You know what?
That's what a coincidence.
Well, that's what a coincidence is. But what I'm trying, what I'm
Sorry,
trying
you
to
can't
say
describe something by
that
giving the definition of what
you're
you're
right.
describing.
You're
Okay.
right. You're right. Exactly.
There's something in the
I
rule
just
book
think the
about that.
timing was there, and it was divinely inspired, and it had to happen at a specific moment. Even if you don't believe it was God, it still had some source
And it was-
outside of us.
And it was done without a hashtag.
That's right.
It was done from the heart, and it was not a totally, it was not a driven, paid for, coordinated effort.
That's correct.
It was what we call a
Spontaneous.
grassroots, spontaneous movement, all at the same time. No matter what time zone you're in, it happened at 9:30 Eastern time. You follow me? Okay. The day after, I got a letter from the Texas Democrat chairman. No, I didn't. I got an email. Let's be very specific. From the chair of the Texas Democratic Party. Probably a couple of hours after the king kahuna of the Democratic Party, Hillary Clinton, had gone on television and thanked her supporters and apologized that they didn't win and talk about healing America and Donald Trump is president and we all need to get behind Mr. Trump and give him a chance to succeed and et cetera, right? That's what the face said up in front of everybody. And Obama seconded that. He came on TV and talked about the smooth transition of power, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and so for the last 8 years, how many times have what they said been what they did?
Never.
Zero.
That's right.
Texas Democrats. Hi, Richard. Like he knows me. I want to thank Secretary Hillary Clinton for her hard-fought campaign, lifetime of service, and commitment to a stronger America. Hillary, eres familia. I guess in Spanish, that means you are family. And we are so proud of you. That's it. Now, listen to what happened. That's it. Then he goes straight into, today, families across our nation know that dark times may be ahead. Donald Trump's cancer on American democracy has spread to unimaginable and horrific lengths. We pray for our families, and we pray that our politics will cease to be controlled by fear and cynicism. He goes on to talk about the wins that they had in Texas and how much better Democrats did in Texas. And basically they pulled off wins in the state that are known for being sanctuary cities and wrought with fraud, with voter fraud. They didn't win. They stole these particular counties and cities is all they did.
There you go.
Okay. I'm the type of person that when I'm really, really mad, I have to sleep on it or I could make some major mistakes. All right? So I slept on it. And the first thing I did when I hit the deck this morning at about 4:45 was fire off a note to Mr. Hinojosa. Oops, I said his name. Sorry. I decided to sleep on this memo before responding for reasons that will be obvious. This is the most repulsive, duplicitous, convoluted effort to undermine our republic that I have ever seen. Your use of code words such as family or familia as you attempt to keep one particular sector of our Texas population on the plantation are truly deplorable. Your reference to the Donald Trump cancer is so exaggerated and misplaced it is laughable. As to the wins that you touted, I find it quite coincidental that they are in geographic areas that directly correspond with documented cases, if not an outright declaration of sanctuary city hotspots in the state of Texas. To be more direct, your victories occurred in areas with high probability of voter fraud. As your presidential candidate and our sitting president were calling for working with the president-elect on national television, you were crafting this message of misguided bitterness to undermine the results of our democracy. Having said that, I want to thank you. You have provided the impetus for my continued fight against you and your kind until my last breath. You have increased the resolve for me to influence as many as possible to understand the leadership of the Democrat Party for the scum that they are, liars, cheats, thugs, punks, anti-American subversives intent on the destruction of our way of life. You are no better than, as a matter of fact, even below, in my estimation, the radical Islamic terrorist that attacks our sacred beliefs and ideology. At least they do it openly and without a hidden agenda. Your method is reprehensible. Good luck to you, and may God bless your tortured soul.
Wow. That's one of those, I wish I had written that kind of thing. That's what it is. Excellent.
Fired me up.
Congratulations, Mr. Owen.
And you know, if you've been listening to the show, I'm not a Republican.
That's right. You're not.
I'm really not. I mean, I have shunned that. I've been there. I've broadcast their stuff. I've been right in the middle of it. And I shunned it because, on the one hand, they're not a whole lot better than this guy.
They're enablers.
That's exactly right. So over dinner tonight, we were talking about this without me disclosing that letter to anybody. And you know, Trump is a rhino, but he's a good rhino. He's a Republican in name only because he was smart enough to know that he had to run. He couldn't run as an independent. He couldn't win. This guy's a strategist. The art of the deal. He knew from the get-go he didn't stand a chance delivering his message. It's not about him. I truly believe that it's not about him. He knew he could not deliver his message and do what he needs to do for the country, which is why he's there, if he ran as an independent.
There you go.
He couldn't have done it. It would have, as that's what they said early on, it would have given it to Hillary. So he had to run as a Republican. Right? And he had
no argument.
But he had to fight he had an unbelievable fight to get there to even represent a party that didn't want him.
That's right.
They didn't want him. They didn't want him right up until 9:30 at night on election night. Some of them still don't want him, probably. This is going to be fun. This is going to be a lot of fun. You know. So you think Trump won, right? You think it's over? Other than those people riding in the streets are just knucking futs.
Yeah.
I mean, they're wacko.
They're working on my
and they're mostly
good nerve.
And they're mostly college students whose brains have been twisted.
I'm sorry. No excuses.
No, I'm not giving you an excuse. A reason. Yeah.
Somebody needs to walk up to them and put a hammer to their toe.
There you go.
Get their attention.
That'd be like a quick bunionectomy.
Yeah. Breaking. Democrats submitted a measure minutes ago, and this came across the wire probably at 8 p.m. 7 p.m., sorry, that could steal the presidency from Trump. Conservative Daily Post is asking blah, blah, blah. Democrats moved into position to execute a last-ditch attempt to shift the Electoral College results. This, of course, would award Hillary Clinton the presidency. Their argument stems from the fact that Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. KDVR reports on the scene said that Democrats are making a strong push for the Electoral College to be changed and for the popular vote to take effect in a new way.
Big mistake.
They have a petition that has 175,000 signatures, making it an official public position.
A lot of them dead. I'm making fun, but yeah, go ahead.
Donald J. Trump is our president-elect. Sit down, shut up, move, just like Jimmy John Jackass, current president, told us when he won the elections have consequences.
There you go.
Sorry.
I won.
Shoe is on the other foot.
That's right.
Folks, elections have consequences. You keep this up, don't get too fired up. They ought to throw them all in jail. Just box them up.
Throw away the key.
Put them in jail and start hosing them down. Front row. Time to go. You have been listening to the Doc Owen Show. Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Now go out there this week and take care, pay attention, and God bless.
Bye-bye, folks. God bless.